Hey everyone, this is a clip from a recent episode of Another Pass, where we talk about movies and all the struggles that go into making them. If you like it, check out the whole podcast. You can find it at certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, I mean, I think let's take a step further back from getting into too much of the specifics at the moment, because I think we do actually need to set up why this movie was so bad, because we talked a little bit about it. But
yeah.
So the director slash everything on this movie was Courtney Solomon, who got the rights somehow when he was 19 to make this damn movie. And then 10 years later, they finally made this damn movie. And that corresponds to when TSR, which had been the original publisher for Dungeons & Dragons, was bought out by Wizards of the Coast. And there's a lot to be said about the mismanagement of the later years of TSR. And that goes a lot into the development hell that went into this all. And then Wizards of the Coast didn't really want anything to do with this movie. So they were like, no, fuck, make this movie now. Like you've got basically zero money. And it was kind of like a Roger Corman kind of situation with the Fantastic Four movie, where it was just like, well, we got to do it for rights purposes. And that's why they went to an older draft of the script, because they'd been working on it for a decade at that point, and had much better versions that I don't fully understand. Like, there might be some like who they want to pay out kind of situation, and then there might be some like just being an asshole trying to like purposefully bomb going on here, because that seems to be kind of part of the story. But they had to go with an earlier version of the script. They had they had a way more limited budget. They got a theatrical release, but it was like basically a TV movie. Like, we're talking about like a nothing kind of project with a first-time director with like, novice and like cheap special effects studios. Like, this is very much in the caliber of what you would see just a few years later for like fan films.
Yeah, that's
or worse, honestly.
Yeah,
I'm sure there were some better fan films, I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah. So we're really seeing like a movie that was very much not getting off on the right foot from any perspective on that one. And unfortunately, this also kind of goes with like what they were trying to do initially, which was to do a D&D movie that was not system or like setting specific, I should say. It's not in any of the classic, like it's not Greyhawk, it's not Mystara, it's not the Forgotten Realms. Like they're very much trying to just be like, here's generic D&D, but they didn't want to do the framing device, which also the fact that it was addressed as a thing that Solomon didn't want to have as be part of the story. I'm like, oh, well, that's also kind of a bummer. Maybe you should rethink it once the whole budget situation happened. But but they wanted to do here's just generic D&D, the movie, go enjoy. And given all the things we just talked about, you can see why.
Yeah.
You can't go generic D&D on such a micro budget with such novices involved in here, because you're not they weren't skilled enough to set up the giant world that they're trying to set up, and then they don't have the special effects to like show all the things that they want to show about the giant world that they're trying to set up, and then you're just in it the whole time. There's no like slow trickle out. There's no here's our everyman like being introduced into this world. Like, it's just, we're gonna make generic fantasy and call it D&D and have nothing that's like specific to D&D aside from like a couple of like very, very specific, like the Beholders and stuff like that.
Well,
and that's more just like Easter eggs.
Yeah.
What I would say too is that if you're gonna go full just kind of fantasy, calling it D&D, at least use like races and classes and spells that you would see. And I know like at the time that this came out, I believe 2E was the edition that was like around, or had been around rather, like when this was being made.
So when this comes out, this is right at the launch of 3rd edition.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
So I think it would have been based on 2 or 2.5, just because if it was launching with 3rd, I don't know that. Whatever. But point being is, I don't think that there was a single. I mean, arguably that weird rope thing she does could be hold person, I guess. But like, for the most part,
like
until we saw.
No one even casts fireball, for God's sake.
Right.
Like, come on.
There's never a time where really magic, other than like the big scenes. This might be a CGI thing, right? This might be because they wanted to use effects. But there's never a time where anyone even like pretends to be silenced, or like, like there are things that you could have simply done, like low level spells, like that possibly didn't need you to like have some. They didn't do any of that. There's also no real team anything. Like, one of the best things about D&D is that you're a team battling things. And because, you know, we have this male protagonist that has to prove himself heart of gold, like most, you know, just generic fantasy, we don't really ever get, like, real team building, team anything, which easily could have been done in the script. We get none of that. Zero. Like, he's basically always going off on his own. It's like every trial is like, well, now you have to go do this alone. And I'm like, really? This is boring. Like, there's no real chance for it to have interaction or for you to even develop those other characters together, right? Like, one of the things that, like, in basic fantasy that is so great is, like, I mean, like, as a kid, my favorite parts of Lord of the Rings was them sitting around the campfire. Not necessarily, like, the battle scenes or, like, running from ring wraiths or stuff like that. It was the team getting to know each other. You don't get any of that, really, in this movie. You just have snails sexually harassing people and making terrible jokes. And like, you know, a little bit of this and that, and a thief with a heart of gold, and I don't know. Like, it's just a lot. It's just a lot of not a good script.
Remember, if you like that clip, check out the podcast. You can find it at certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.